My name's Phil Ashford and I'm co-founder, co-director of Supersonic Startup. I've been working with startup businesses and SMEs for about 14 years. Me and my business partner have worked with about 7,000 startups, I think, over the years. And we have quite a niche as we work with a lot of people who have additional barriers. So we do quite a lot of work in prisons. We're running a few current programs at the moment, one with a local social enterprise called Joyfully Different. Anyone heard of them? Wonderful. We're running a self-employment program for neurodiverse entrepreneurs with them. We're also running a course for entrepreneurs who are going through drugs and alcohol recovery, and that's with Kennedy Street Recovery in Brighton. Anyone heard of them? Fantastic. I like you lot. And we're also running a course for creative businesses as well down in Slough. Yes, Slough have creative businesses. It is true. Okay, let's get cracking. Oh, that's not getting cracking. Try this. Here we go. Yeah, that's us. Wonderful. This is what the agenda is going to be, but I just want to ask a quick question. How many of you have just started running a business? Thank God for that. How many of you have been running a business for under a year? Wonderful. Okay, excellent. What we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit about the pros and cons on working for yourself. Now, there is a reason for this. Is a lot of what I'll be talking about is the mistakes that me and my business partner made, and what a lot of people don't realise what those pros and cons are when they actually start. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start off with the miserable bit. What do you think a downside of working for yourself is going to be? Sorry?
Not getting a salary.
Financial insecurity, absolutely.
No payment time off.
No sick pay, no holiday pay. Isolation, definitely. Song by Joy Division. But that's important, and that's come out a lot already. It's about that lonely place to be. And what that doesn't mean is you haven't got friends and family, is people don't get it. So what I mean by that, oh, you're self-employed, you must earn loads of money, and you're just down the beach three times a week. It's not like that, is it? We all know. Anything else? One more? Okay, yes. Yes. Yeah, what if you have a bad day? What about motivation? All those sort of things. So let's just talk about those a little bit. Okay, financial security. We know there's good and bad months. Sick pay and holiday pay. Long hours. It's a fact. If you're going to start a business, you will be doing long hours. Make sure you tell your partner, etc., that that's going to be the case. Who's responsible? You are. There's no HR department, none of that stuff. If you cock things up, it's down to you. Lonely place to be. Also the legal side of it. Someone was saying they didn't know what they didn't know. Like you don't learn this stuff at school. Getting customers, common thing for all of us all of the time. So I'm going to talk about that lonely bit, and that's where I'm saying that the last people basically covered this for me. Is how many of you, when you started a business, had people around you that said, that will never work? Why is someone like you doing this? Has anyone had that? It's a bit of smiling down here. You're definitely my favourite group. But it's really important you get rid of those people really quickly. And it's a bit of an American phrase, but hang around radiators, not drains. And that's exactly what the last group was just talking about. So there's loads of things you can do. And this peer group stuff is so important. I've been a facilitator and in peer groups for about 10 years, so I know how powerful it can be. And someone mentioned earlier on that it's not just about, oh, how do I do my marketing? It could be, I'm having a really bad day. My mental health is struggling. The amount of peer groups that I go in, where it's a lot about well-being as well as business, and it's very powerful. So things you can do, the peer groups we've talked about. I think the Growth Hub were on earlier on. Go to their events. They go to the Growth Hub. LinkedIn, okay, I know we're getting a bit LinkedIn out these days, but there is still free webinars and events and things that you can go to. This is not a dodgy site, by the way. Meetup.com is whatever you're interested in. You could be into fly fishing, fashion, football, doesn't matter. You go onto this and there's little meetup groups locally, but there might be meetup groups for people starting businesses or in the industry that you're doing. Chamber of Commerce, where's the Chamber? Come on, yeah, absolutely. There you go. So go to the Chamber of Commerce. Federation of Small Businesses as well, you've probably heard of those. They're a national organisation. And Freedom Works co-working, of course. So it is important that you start right at the beginning, get into these groups. Don't wait 6 months down the line. Okay, you're going to make us happy now. What are the good sides of working for yourself?
Exceptional boss.
Huh?
Exceptional boss.
Exceptional boss. I like that. Most people, am I an exceptional boss of myself? No. But being your own boss. Who here has had a toxic manager working for somebody else? Always the vast majority. How many times, don't you ever think, how did they get there? How did they get there? We've all had them. Who here has had an appraisal that goes on for 2 hours, we get a 1% pay rise? There you go. So, exceptional boss. Anything else?
Being able to do things ethically.
Love that. My first business was a social enterprise. So I'll totally get that. Yeah, doing things ethically. Wonderful. I really like that. Anything else?
In line with ethically, also doing stuff that's in line with your values.
Brilliant. Aligned with your values. Also doing your passion as well. Greek philosopher once said, if you do what you love, you never work again. I do like that. And someone said to me, I was talking about this, and they said, make what you're good at your passion. Quite like that. Anything else?
Freedom.
Freedom. God, it's like Braveheart in here. Yeah, absolutely. It's, even though you're doing the long hours, it's the flexibility. And there's an upside to the long hours, is that it feels different. If you're working for somebody else, the clock goes backwards. If you're working for yourself, it feels different. I love that, freedom. Also, hopefully this will still be the case in October, you pay less tax than employee. It's a fact. And I'll be going through all the different ways that you can do that. Yeah. You don't have to go to meetings that are really boring. Absolutely right. You could just walk out if you wanted to. So all that flexibility, I do like that. Okay, I've got a heck of a lot to get through in an hour, so if I'm going too fast, you tell me. So, financial freedom. If you get your self-employment right, you could actually be more financially secure than in work. What is work like at the moment? Short-term contracts, 0-hour contracts. It's almost become like self-employment. Not saying that it's easy, by the way. Being your own boss, being an exceptional, do you know what I always say, whenever I do anything self-employment wise, anyone who's self-employed and says they know everything is a liar. And I always learn one thing, and I know on my next course, I'm going to go exceptional boss. Definitely. Yes, absolutely. But we'll talk about doing pro bono later on. Doing your passion, so important. It's one of the best things. If you're ever teaching selling to self-employment people, they do this naturally. Who's worked for a company and sold stuff that they hated? You don't do that if you're self-employed. Legacy. You can leave something. Now that could be something just really sort of standard, like you could sell your business or leave it to your kids or whatever. But someone was talking about ethics and values. You could leave that as something that carries on. You've helped other people. And also constant learning. So I say, once you're self-employed, you will always be learning in all different things. And again, the last panel said exactly that. So do we still want to work for ourselves after all of that? Yeah. Good stuff. Excellent. Right, I'm going to do a bit of the boring bit now. Who here is a sole trader already? Who here hasn't signed up yet? Just one. I'm doing it just for you. I'm going to be really quick about it. So sole trader is the easiest way of setting yourself up as self-employed. Doesn't cost any money. You register on the HMRC website. They give you a unique tax reference number. That's called a UTR number. But the most important thing, and who's talking about bookkeeping earlier on? I can't remember. But keeping records is the number one thing if you're a sole trader. So that's everything that comes into your business, any sales, you record that, and everything that goes out. And that is called a legitimate business expense. Now, what is a legitimate business expense? Firstly, you must keep a record of it. Keep a receipt for everything that you do. Keep a spreadsheet, but there's lots of software out there. Natalie's going to send you links to all the stuff I'm going to be talking about today. There's a great little app called Pocket PA, which does all of this for you, but there's also ones called Dext. What's the other one? What's the one that they advertise all the time? QuickBooks is another one. But I'll send you a link to loads of different ones and just shop around. But you could do your own spreadsheet on this. So what is a legitimate business expense? That could be materials, that could be your vehicle, that could be insurance, that could be legal fees, that could be travel. You all know that if it's travel, that you keep your ticket for any public transport. And if you've got a car or a vehicle, if it's 100% for your business, you normally keep all your receipts for that. But if it isn't, HMRC allow you 45 pence a mile to record it, but you need to record that journey. Who here has got a push bike? 20p a mile, any legitimate business journey. You can claim, that is true. Okay, so you're keeping all these records. So other things, insurance, training, travel, all these things. Marketing, website, phone contract, printers, furniture, all these different things. You can also claim utilities at home. Now again, I'm not an accountant, but just as a rough way of doing it, if you had 3 rooms in your house and you're using one specifically for your business, you could claim 33% of your utility bills. HMRC website, believe it or not, is actually quite user-friendly, so please go on to that. Now the reason you're doing that is because at the end of every tax year, you need to do something called self-assessment. And self-assessment is when you add up everything that comes in, everything that goes out, you don't even have to send your receipts in, and you put it on the HMRC website, and then they'll calculate your tax. Now, a lot of you have already done this, so I'm not going to bang on about it too much. But okay, just as an example, say, I'm just pointing at you because you haven't set up yet. Say you earn £10,000 with your business, you put it on the HMRC website, at the end of the tax year, your expenses are £5,000, it will calculate your profit, that's what you'll pay your tax on, not the total amount that comes into your business. And everybody in here has something called a personal allowance. That's the amount of money you're allowed to earn before you pay tax, which is roughly around £12,500. So in this example, you wouldn't pay any tax. So when I work in prisons, and they say, why I just do it cash in hand? And I say, no, you can actually earn 12.5 grand legally. Really? Yes. Oh, by the way, quick prison story. I was in Belmarsh prison with a group of lads, and I said to them, does anyone know what the difference between assets and liabilities are? One of them puts his hand up, he goes, my mate Dave is a right liability. We all know a Dave, don't we? Okay, the other good thing is you don't have to do your tax return until January, so you've got ages to do it, but you have to pay it by the end of January. And someone was saying about it's difficult doing it and it biting your bum. Have a bit of a system. At least, do 1 hour on a Friday where you put your phone down and do all your stuff. Just get a bit of a system so you're not all doing it at the end of the year. And HMRC got some good webinars on this. Okay. Who here is a limited company? Oh, no, sorry, partnership. Forgot about that. Who here is in a partnership? 1. Who here would consider being in a partnership? A few. Okay, starting a partnership is quite an easy thing to do. It's very similar. The reason you might want to do a partnership is to bring additional skills into your business. So you might be really good at marketing, but you need a finance person. Or it could be money, that you need a bit of investment and someone could come in and give you some money. It's easy to set up. You register on HMRC, you get separate UTR numbers, you do your self-assessment separately. But I've been doing this job a long time. Who here has been in or known a partnership that's got terribly wrong? Yes. There's a number of reasons for that. Now this can be family, best friends, etc. So there's 3 things. If you're looking to go into a partnership or doing a partnership, you just take this away. Firstly, you must have the same vision as your business partner. So if, for example, your business partner wants to build a £5 million business in 3 years and sell it, but you want to have a lifestyle business and just spend all day on the beach, you're going to have conflict straight away. Make sure you have the same vision. Also, roles and responsibilities, sort them out before you start, not during. But the third one, which is most important, even if it's your best mate, even if it's family, I'm in a business partnership, me and my business partner worked together for 14 years, have a legal partnership agreement. Because if you're a sole trader or a partnership, you are the business. You're not a separate entity. So if your business partner runs off with the money and you haven't got this, you could be in a bit of trouble. So, sir, are you going to have a legal partnership agreement? Wonderful, thank you. Okay, fantastic. Limited companies. Who here is a limited company already? Fantastic. Have you all got an accountant? Good, not yet. Excellent. Right, I'll be very quick with this and I'll just talk you how you set one up and what the benefits, pros and cons are. You register with the company's house. That costs money, normally about 40 quid. You get an accountant to do it for you. So immediately it's a bit more legal than a sole trader. By law, you have to submit accounts every year. If you don't, you will get fined. Again, a bit more legal stuff going on, and you will need an accountant unless you are an accountant yourself. And it's also public because you're on Companies House. All Companies Houses is a database of other limited companies, but your name is going to be on there. So if you've done anything dodgy, your name's going to be on there, okay? So some people who want to keep themselves very to watch themselves, sole trader is probably best. So why would you want to do this? 3 main reasons. 1, you remember what I said about partnership and sole trader, where you are the business? This is separate. You're an employee, a director of your business. So that means you can only ever lose money within the limited company. They can't touch your house or your car. Limited liability, limited company. The second reason, and this is all the marketeers will either agree or shoot me down, it's also, even though it's perception, not always reality, it gives you marketing credibility. If you say you're limited, even if you're just one person in a dressing gown on their own, people think you're bigger than you are. I had a client who ran a personalised gift online business in a dressing gown, and people used to phone her up saying, I spoke to one of your staff last week, just because it was a limited company. Giftedindesign.com, by the way. So from a marketing point of view, it can give you credibility, but I know awful limited companies and brilliant sole traders, so it's not always true. But the other one, which I am not an accountant, so I'm not going to go into massive detail with this, but you can pay yourself in a different way. You can pay yourself by something called dividends, and that is a share of the profit. Now, if you're the only shareholder, you get all the profit. So what an accountant roughly will tell you to do is pay yourself minimum wage. So you're paying a little bit of national insurance, very little tax. PAYE, you will get a pay slip for that. And the rest of your profit, you will then take as a dividend and you'll pay less tax. It's called corporation tax. I think that is going to change quite radically in a few weeks, to be honest. But before you even think about dividends, one step back, you must make the profit first. There's no point having a limited company if you're not making any profit. And also, if you're a sole trader or a partnership, you can change to a limited company. You don't have to be one forever once you start. All with me, everyone? Great stuff. Okay, social enterprise. Anyone here a social enterprise already? Anyone thinking about it? Right, excellent, you're one already, you're thinking about it. Okay, my company started as a social enterprise. What it isn't is a charity. A charity is something that's funded by grant funding, that's funded by bids and all this sort of thing. It has to be a commercial business, it has to make money. That's the first point. But it has a social purpose. It is set up to solve a social issue. So my company, when we started, was very much about getting people from additional barriers to access self-employment support because they weren't. So you might want to help the environment, you want to help disadvantaged kids, you might want to help older people, you might all these different things. But do not go into this lightly and only do it if you're really passionate about it. So, how can you set one up? The easiest way is something called limited by guarantee. It's exactly the same as a limited company. You go on Companies House, you have to submit accounts, apart from one thing, you cannot pay yourself dividend. You can pay yourself a salary though, okay? But that's the easiest way to start a social enterprise. The most common one is a community interest company, which again you set up on Companies House. It's a little bit more bureaucracy. I'm going to give you a link to unlimited.org. They're brilliant at helping start up social enterprises. Are you a community interest company? Brilliant. Okay, so why would you want to do this? Firstly, you want to make some form of social change in using your business to do that. But secondly, a social enterprise can raise funding that a sole trader, a partnership, and a limited company can't. It can apply for lottery money, it can apply for other charity money, it can apply for trust funds. You can apply for particular projects. So for example, my company, we bid for money to run a self-employment program for ex-offenders in Milton Keynes, and we got paid to do that and we ran it, but we didn't have to pay the money back, okay? So, social enterprise, you will need to do a business plan for this, just like any other business, but always have social outputs as well as financial outputs. I'll just give you a little example of my business when we hit a bit of a sweet spot on this, because a lot of charities and social enterprise become funding dependent. So what that means is they go for a fund, they do a good project, and then the money runs out, they have to get the next one. It's a roller coaster. Happens a lot. So we were running a course in HMP Lewis, and we got approached by Legal & General. You know, they're based down in Hove. They said, we want to help you, and we don't know how. So rather than do the charity thing and say, give us money to do nice things, we made something up. Just made it up. That's a great thing about working for yourself, by the way. Is we said, give us 5 of your managers. We'll train them to be mentors for the guys in prison. We will match them with the mentees, the guys on the course. We'll bring you into the prison on a weekly basis. They'll do a one-to-one session. And then we'll report back to the mentor what they did well and what they didn't. Made it up. And we did it for 3 months. And it started off as a CSR program, corporate social responsibility. We evaluated it, and the mentors went back into the workplace with more skills. Better listeners, wider perspective, better managers. So we said, this isn't a CSR project, this is a management development program, and you're going to pay us as a management development program. So we did. They paid us for that. We got Legal & General to do it up in Milton Keynes. We got KPMG to do it in Birmingham. We never had to go for any funding. Our people we wanted to help were getting more help than ever before. Social enterprise sweet spot. Does that make sense? Cool. Don't go into this lightly, but more than happy to talk to you about it. And Community Works back there, they're doing some great stuff as well. Okay. I'll do a bit about startup costs here, but I think this is relevant for anyone running a business anyway, is to keep your costs as low as possible. Chris is going to do a wonderful presentation about finance later on, but if you can do this bit first before you even look at finance, is like the people who are already running businesses, I know this from experience, it's almost like you have to start your business over and over again. Does that make sense? You have to pivot and do it all over again. So some of this will be relevant. So your funding equals your startup costs. And you work out your startup costs line by line, because think about it, anyone who's going to fund you is going to need to know every single line. I'll get people coming on our courses and they'll say, I'll come on your course because I need 10 grand. It's never 9,580 or 10,000. It's always, no, line by line. Think about it. If someone's coming to you asking for money, you'd want to know exactly what you're going to spend it on. So that's the first thing. Second thing you do is try and halve it straight away. And there's a number of things you can do, especially startups. Start small, nothing wrong with that. It lessens your risk. You know, people were talking earlier on about overwhelm and, motivation. If you're starting really big, it's going to be very stressful. But it doesn't mean you don't get to where you need to get to, and I'll give you an example. If someone came on our course and said they wanted to start a restaurant, what do you think the startup cost would be? High, medium, or low? Very high. Oh, Bruce Forsyth there. But if we said to them, look, don't do the restaurant straight away, do events from your kitchen. What would be the startup cost for that? Higher, lower. Okay, but then if they get that right, then they can do mobile catering, then they can have their restaurant a bit further down the line. By that time, they've built a brand and they've built a customer base anyway, and they probably generated some of their own money to pay for their restaurant anyway. So it doesn't stop you going where you want to be. So starting small is not a bad thing. All of you, someone said it in the previous group, you're all really good at what you do. You're fantastic at what you do. That's why you're doing startup. So barter those skills non-financially and make this just part of your culture as an entrepreneur. So for example, if you're a paint and decorator and you know a web designer, go and paint their front room and get them to design your website. Barter those skills. Go through your startup costs and see what you can barter. I'll give you a real life example. I was working with a martial arts company and had some funding business support, and the funding ran out and they said, look, can you still help us? And I said, well, funding's not there anymore. And they said, come on a kickboxing program. Yeah, all right. So I learned how to kickbox and then I helped them. Not a penny changed hands. So what is it that you can do to barter those skills and get rid of those costs? I haven't put it up there, but don't ask, don't get. If you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be dead cheeky all the time. And you'd be amazed how generous other people are. Real life example again. Our first contract was in Lewis Prison. We had designed a self-employment program, but we hadn't had it funded. And a big organisation called Serco said, we might fund that pilot. Come up to London and present to us. We didn't have a website, we didn't have business cards, nothing. So I, through a friend of a friend, found anyone who runs a branding web design company, you're going to hate me for this. But I found a friend of a friend was running a branding website company. And I phoned him up and I said, look, I need 4-page website, fully branded, 2 sets of business cards, fully branded. I need them in 2 weeks and I'm not paying you a penny. What do you think he said? No bad language. Come on, think about it. What's in it for me? And I said, I'll tell you what's in it for you. I've looked at your website. You've never worked with a social enterprise before. We'll give you the best review ever. And also, if we win the contract, we'll come back and pay it. He said, yes. We won the contract and we still use the same branding now. So, don't ask, don't get. Also, you're in Sussex. Lots of really good colleges and universities, kids doing web design, digital marketing, market research, business planning, all these sort of things. Ask some students if they'd like to volunteer to help you out. Now, remember, these are not consultants, these are students, so you treat them as such. You don't phone them at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning saying, where's my website? But what you can do is, you can say, look, this becomes a real life portfolio for you. When you leave college and you've designed my website, that's going to help you get a job. And we've seen some amazing stuff. Most colleges, are the colleges in here today, by the way? No? Most colleges and unis have something called business services, where they try and link businesses with the students. So as long as you get their permission, you could potentially just put something up in the student union bar or something like that. We've seen some amazing results with this. Startups, Vistaprint, you can get business cards really cheap and leaflets, or that's a little practical thing. Anyone here runs a web design company? One. Excellent. You're probably going to shoot me down here. But the days of spending a fortune up front on buying a website are over. There's lots of companies that you can build your own and do all that sort of stuff. But I'd rather you go to this lady here. I'm sure she'll do a 10 times better job. Again, I'll be sending you all links to this stuff. So do you see the culture of slow startup cost? Does that make sense? The little practical things there. Right, how are we getting on? Good. Right, market research. This has come up a bit in the previous groups. And this isn't just for startups. This should be something that is a continual process, whatever business you're running. And people find it, again, you don't know what you don't know. So what I want to do is I want to break this down into just little sections of some practical stuff that you can go away with. Because if you're doing a business plan and you're going to do a marketing plan within that, the market research must come first. Who here, and by the way, I'm going to put my hand up to this, has done marketing before they did any market research? A few of you, yeah. So again, so your marketing plan should be based on this. Now the first people, and the last group said it really well, was about understanding your customers, walking in their shoes. So how do you actually do that? So a real traditional way is like surveys. So SurveyMonkey, for example, maybe you've all used that before. You can get that out on social media. It's all free. And what you're trying to do is really work out who your customers are and to profile your perfect customer. Is your perfect customer a female aged 20 to 50 who lives in Lancing? Is your perfect customer an SME with 10 to 20 employees that is in the manufacturing industry in Hastings? Really get those niches down. So you're building evidence. Because all of you know your customers a little bit. That's why you're in this industry. And it's getting what's in here down on there and proving it. Because if you're going for funding, Chris, I hope I'm saying the right thing here. If you're going for funding, always think of the funder as a blank sheet of paper. They don't know what you know. So if you say, yeah, I know I've got customers, they're going to say, well, who, why, when? But if you say my survey showed 70% of people that were in Hastings area who run manufacturing businesses said they were interested in a new website, that's a whole different ballgame. So it's about building evidence, not just for funders, but for yourself as well. Now, I'm a big believer, oh, by the way, if you're doing any survey, always have an incentive on it. Who here throws away surveys the minute they see them? So have an incentive. So if, for example, you were doing some audits on other people's websites or doing a survey or whatever, you say, if you do this for me, there'll be a prize draw that I'll do 6 hours of work on your website for you. So make sure there's an incentive. So you're profiling who that perfect customer is. Now this next bit is beautifully set up by the people from the libraries, Cobweb Cobra platform. I cannot agree with them more. This is the best market research tool you'll ever get when it comes to looking at your actual market. So just like they said, go into the business which is nearest to you. They've got thousands of them, web designers, snail farmers, painter and decorators, all these different things. And they will have up-to-date market research on your market. And that will help you decide, is that the right market for you to be in, okay? And then the next one, and again, they say they've got this platform called Fame. That sounded amazing. It's about analysing your competitors. And it's a bit of a cliche, but the things you need to be looking at is what are the prices of your competitors charging? Now, that is a big one when you're a startup. How many startup here are the ones who've already started, how many price yourselves too low? Always happens. It's a confidence thing. It's that feeling, oh, I've got to go in really low because I want to get my first customers. But that's a really dangerous game because you're doing two things. One, you could end up being a busy fool. You can end up getting loads of work, but then you're not earning any money. But also, it totally devalues what you do. The whole reason you're in business is because you're a specialist at what you do. If you're going at a low price, why should I buy you? That person who's charging more, they're probably higher value than you. So put your price up immediately if you can, but do it at the market rate. Now, that doesn't mean to say that when you start, you can't give a discount to get those few customers, but it must go back up to that market rate after a particular period of time. Make sense? Who's going to do low pricing anymore? That's better. Wonderful. So what you're doing, you're building this market research that will inform your marketing plan so you know exactly where your customers communicate. Like we're talking about competitors, the price. How do they promote themselves? Nickel their ideas, look at their websites. Oh, they do online bookings. I'm not doing that. Yeah, I'm going to start doing that. Where do they go on Instagram? Where are they getting their most followers? What content are they putting out there? It can be a really good shortcut to finding out where you need to be. Also, what products and services do they do? Do your competitors do anything else that you might be able to do? And also, with the competitor research, some of you will be very geographical. Some of your businesses, your competitors will be around here. Others that are more national, you'll need to do your competitor research nationally. Okay? So I'll put the libraries, go there. There'll be a massive shortcut for you with a lot of this stuff. But do you understand why it's something you don't just do and lock in the drawer? It's something you do regularly, 6 months, yearly, or whatever. Make sense? Great stuff. Okay, because a lot of you have started already, I'm just going to widen this out a little bit. We've got a bit more time. Is about what are the features of a high growth startup. Now, there is a bit of an obsession in this country about high growth, that every business has to be high growth. And a lot of business support programs are all high growth, high growth. Not all businesses start because they want to be high growth. Some people do it because they want to start a social enterprise. Some people want to do it because they want a lifestyle business. Heard a lovely little phrase was, I used to work for the University of Brighton many years ago, and I was talking to the Vice Chancellor, and he was going, well, in Brighton, it's one of the highest levels of entrepreneurialism in the country. More people starting businesses there. He goes, but the number that get to the VAT threshold is really low. How can we change that? I said, you're not going to change it. Because most people, not most, generalisation, a lot of people in Brighton want to start a business for lifestyle reasons. They don't want to grow. And the phrase I heard from an academic, they self-dwarf. I love that phrase. They keep themselves low because they don't want all that hassle. Who here's running a creative business? Interesting one. Creative businesses, work quite a few. You do it because you love what you do, isn't it? That's why you do it, because you love that part of it. But if you grow, suddenly you're doing HR, you're doing marketing, you have to go out to networking events, and suddenly you're not doing what you started to do. So keep that in mind if creative businesses, when you grow, don't neglect the reason why you started in the first place. Going on a bit of a tangent there. But nothing wrong with high growth if you want to go that route. So I've put down there, build the right team. That's really important. So if you are going to grow, be high growth, having the right people working for you is so important. But if it's just you, and this should go for everybody here, when you start a business, or even if you have started, identify your own skills gaps and put a plan on how you're going to fill them. Because as I said, anyone who's self-employed who thinks they know everything, they're a liar. You will always have things that you're going to be good at and things you're not going to be so good at, but you need to sort that out now. Now, when I say put in a plan to fill them, you're not going to do it overnight. It could be that you haven't got the budget to outsource and do all these things, but you might have the budget in 6 months' time. That's going to be your plan. So, for example, it could be you found you've got a skills gap when it comes to social media. So what you do is you say, right, either I'm going to train myself up to get better or I'm going to outsource it, but that's your plan. And also another thing, me and my business partner do this, and this has been really, really helpful. Write your own job description. Write down what you actually do. And obviously, when you're at the start and it's just you'll be doing everything, but still write it down. Because when your business starts to grow, you do this every 6 months or a year, or whatever is most appropriate to you, you find it starts to change. And then you go into it and you say, right, what is it that I do in my business, my job description, that adds value to the business or doesn't? And I'll give you an example when I did this years ago. I found out I was spending, I don't know, I'm just sort of making this up a little bit, that I was doing 2 or 3 hours a week doing invoicing. So is that adding value to my business? Shouldn't I be out doing training or getting new customers in or doing strategy? No, it wasn't. So if you do that, find out what is it that you do, because you don't even know you're doing it unless you write it down. Oh, what? So I'm doing that for 5 hours a week when I should be out networking or doing whatever. And you can start managing this stuff. Does that make sense? It's a little practical tip there. So build the right team and identify your skills gaps and how to fill them. Like any companies that do that are always going to be higher growth. We talked a little bit about this already. Knowing the customers and measuring success is how many of you sort of, I hate the word KPIs, I hate it, but do you measure what you do? Or do you just bumble along? By the way, I'm a bumbler, a massive bumbler. But do you find sometimes you're just sort of just getting on with it? And that's because you're in the business. Someone said, really, it was a brilliant little, we're talking about the peer mentoring, that you're coming out on top and look at it from a different angle. If you're in the middle of it, how do you measure what you're doing? Have you set yourself smart objectives for your business, whatever they might be, and have you put a timeline on them, and are you measuring them? Because if you don't, you just sort of go a bit like this. And it's totally natural because you're in the business. Who here feels overwhelmed sometimes? Really, really common. So it's really important to take that step out and make those objectives really tight. Something me and my business partner do, who here, I bet, do most of you work from home? Right? If you're feeling that overwhelm, it's really good to get out of the house and go to a cafe and do a bit of work there. I know that sounds really crazy. Or if you're working in a partnership, spend a day where you turn the phones off and do a strategy day, but make yourself do it, because you're always too busy, aren't you? Oh yeah, I want to do strategy, but I haven't got time. And then suddenly 6 months goes past, then a year goes past, and you don't do any of this. So make sure you make yourself time to set those objectives and measure them, etc. Make sense? Who here procrastinates? One of the most common things with startups, most common thing. And that was another really good thing they said, that's what I'm saying, they did my presentation for me in a way. They were talking about accountability. And if you procrastinate, you know what it's like. We all go there, and it's because of overwhelm. It's because of overwhelm, that's all it is. And it's totally natural. And the amount of business startups that have imposter syndrome. Who has imposter syndrome? Do you think everybody else knows better than you? They don't. I can tell you now they don't. There's a brilliant entrepreneur, female entrepreneur in Brighton, who did a presentation, and she said she used to go to these networking events, all these blokes in suits and stuff, and she'd go, oh God, they all know so much more than me. Oh God, I don't really know what I'm doing. She built a £1 million business with 20 staff, by the way. And then she realised 6 months in, they're all winging it. They're all winging it. We all are. It's only different levels of it. So don't feel that everybody knows more than you. And that is important for all of this stuff with high growth. It's like, be confident. You're going to be learning all the time. You don't learn this stuff at school. And all other businesses, you might think they're doing better than you, but they're on the hamster wheel and having bad days just like you. Promise you. Okay, so, and knowing your customers. Someone said empathy, put yourself in their shoes all the time. Brand loyalty and retaining customers. Retaining customers is so important. We all know that it costs more money to get a new customer than it does to retain someone. So really look after them. And I'm just going to give you, again, it's the same academic I was talking about earlier on. He came up with this brilliant phrase, and it's called contempt of customer. Now, when you get your first customers, they're your best mate, aren't they? You love them. They're actually paying you for what you do. So you run their kids to school, you'll build their house, whatever it takes. They're the first customer, they're wonderful. Then you get another one. Yeah, you do all that. You can't do exactly the same as you did for the first one because you haven't got time. Then you get 100 customers, the phone rings, not another one. Make sense? Who here has worked for a company where your phone rings? Oh God, it's a customer. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? If it's your business, you've got to be really careful because that's when it's called contempt of customer. And the example he gave was that he used to do his work by, you know, the Brighton Pavilion Cafe? They used to go there first thing in the morning and there was very few customers there. So all the staff at the cafe would go, hello, Paul, how you doing, mate? Nice day, isn't it? What are you up to? Oh, that's interesting, that's great. Then he'll go up there at lunchtime, there's a big queue. Next. Think about how that's going to affect your business. Because the minute you get to that stage, that's when your growth starts to drop. So what you can do about that is having a process in your business that means you give consistent service to all your customers and giving yourself time and managing expectations of those customers. Does that make sense? So think about what is the process that you can keep consistent good service for all your customers, even if it's 100 or 10. And it's something just to look at. Just do a little business process for that. There was another little, a bit of a tangent here, but there's another one that I really like, is that do all of you, when you have a customer, do you get them to evaluate your product and service? Vitally important that you do. And someone said it earlier on, that if someone criticizes your business, you can take it quite personally, because if you're self-employed, it's a little bit like your baby. But don't ever take it personally. You will get some people who are just going to moan just for the heck of it, but if someone is criticizing your business or you're evaluating it and they weren't 100% happy with your service, take that on board and make sure that it goes back into improving your service. And there's something, if people don't complain, nothing gets better. I am terrible for this. If you go into a restaurant and the service is awful, the food's dreadful, and then the waiter comes over, how was it, sir? Fine. And is that restaurant going to get any better? No. So think about how that is with your business, is always evaluate. Make sure your customers are always get a way of saying, oh yeah, you could do that a little bit better, or that would have worked a bit better. But again, that will keep you in a high growth mode all the time if you're making sure that your evaluation is there as well. And just using all those marketing channels, but when I say all marketing channels, let's go back to the market research bit. Where do your customers go in those marketing channels? Who here has done what I call scattergun social media? We just put stuff out. Oh, better than me. Tell it. Yeah, but sometimes you can just put stuff out on social media, etc., and there's nothing strategic behind it. So make sure if your customers find out where their channels are and communicate them there, and do not waste your time on channels where you're not getting any leads. And this is something when you come back to marketing, and I'm imagining a lot of you guys do this already. Whenever you do get a customer, find out where they heard from you. So a lot of companies, not because they're bad people, they just do it, is they often keep doing marketing and they're not evaluating it and they're not getting any leads, but they just sort of keep doing it. Big companies do this quite a lot. So what you need to do is every month find out, right, what marketing worked, what didn't, where did I get my leads from? So let's say you had a number of marketing tactics. Let's say you had social media, a leaflet drop, an advert, let's say. And if you got 10 leads from social media, brilliant, I'm going to do more of that. And the advert got you 5 leads, yeah, I'm going to do more of that. But the leaflet drop, you got no leads, ditch that and then do more of the other 2. But you do that on a monthly basis. So you're evaluating your marketing. That's how you can manage your marketing plan going forward. Does that make sense? I'm doing 3 days in about an hour. I just warn you here. Okay. Right. How are we doing? Okay. It says questions, but I just want to open it up because I've sort of talked about a lot of different things here. Just one thing before we go forward. Who here has done a business plan for their business? Quite a few, but not everybody. Just a little stat. If you do a business plan, you're 60% more likely to be successful. Who procrastinates over doing a business plan? Exactly. So what I would do is you really need to get over that. Now you've got amazing business support here. So there was talks of one-to-one sessions with experts about business planning. Get on with it. But if you're really struggling with a business plan, a really good way to start is do a business plan mind map. So that's get a big piece of paper. Do you ever know what a mind map is? Put your business in the middle. Just Google business plan mind maps. 1 million of them will come up. And you can just do a little visual version of your business on one page, just to get over that procrastination. Who here is going to do that? 2. Kidding. But it is important that the business plan, now, when we talk about business plan, when I teach this, especially in prisons, I don't call it a business plan. We call it planning for success. Because when you hear the word business plan, you think of a crusty accountant covered in cobwebs. A business plan is not like that. A business plan is a non-academic piece of work. It's all about the market research. It's working out what your business process is, your cash flow, all these different things, but it's non-academic and it's in your benefit. And it's also not something you do that you shut in a drawer. You go back to it and you update it because business changes all the time. So please, for those people who haven't done a business plan, start one. Those who have done a business plan, go to these guys and all the guys you've met today and get them to review it. And because, we're talking about startup costs, anything that's for free, bite their hands off. Anything. Any support you get, you will learn one thing. Okay? So, just a little bit about business, just bullying you about business plans for a bit there. Okay, we've got about 5 minutes for questions. Would anyone like to... it doesn't even have to be questions, just any experiences or anything, go for it. It's dead on past. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for all your contributions and good luck. You're on the roller coaster, but it's going to be great fun. All the best. Cheers.